through my 20s, I was overweight, like 80 to 100 pounds varying. But then my 30s, everything just like all the bad stuff started happening. I am on the way to the cardiologist. I haven't seen him in 7 months. I'm super excited to see what he has to say about all my blood work and stuff. In I go.
You look a lot different.
Yeah,
too, from when I saw you.
Feel a lot different. Just being able to do basic daily tasks, and I walk anywhere from 2 to 6 miles, or well, yeah, 2 to 6 miles every single day.
Well, so you saw your labs and things.
I did.
What are your thoughts?
They are all looking good. All headed downward, which this is what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
And the message you sent me about the nitrates, I was eating too many sausages where there was that slight spike in my triglycerides that one time. I was like, yeah, I am eating too many sausages. So I cut that down and they've come back down.
Yeah, it's looking great. I just calculated the ratio, triglyceride HDL ratio. I mean, because when I saw you, it was like 3, something like that.
5 something.
Was it 5 something?
I looked it up. It was 5 something. I'm at 3 something.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, it's 3 now. Yeah, so that's really coming down nicely. And then the other one was that fasting insulin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool to see that too.
No longer diabetic.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. Like I have no insulin resistance. I looked at it, I'm like, I'm within the normal category. And then my A1C was 4 I just had it checked and get out of pocket.
Yeah, right. 4.9.
Yeah.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
You no longer meet criteria.
Yeah, I think I'm almost out of the metabolic syndrome category 2. My fatty liver's gone. My liver enzymes are actually, all of them are normal. They were quite elevated when I started this. So yeah,
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And the other thing is, so this other gentleman that I saw today, we're talking a lot about the LDL, because he's older, has other issues, but he's like, should I go to statin or not? Because of this LDL, right? I don't know what your other doctors have said about that, but like you said, to be expected for what you're doing.
My PCP, when I first started, he wanted to, and I asked him what the increased risk, like without taking it, and it was like 2% or something, and he even had to fudge numbers to make me 40 instead of, I was 32 then, and he's like, because the computer was saying you need to be on this because you're elevated LDL, that's why he sent me to you in the first place. And he was very shocked, actually. I remember him being like, oh, it's that little? I'm like, yeah, I knew it was that little. And I was like, why? And he's like, okay, well, I'm not going to recommend it then. He's like, despite the computer recommending it. And I'm like, yeah. And the minute it's high, but my LDL, I think when I first started, it was like 150, the LDL-C, and now it's 145. So despite the fact that I literally solely eat animal products, it's slightly lower.
Yeah. But I think that's also to be expected, that it's not going to be like 50, just because. But I think that some docs will get excited about that,
But my HDL, because I've been actually moving around, I think it started like 40 or something. It's at 68 or 69.
68.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah,
so that's great. Oh, the one thing that was interesting, I was going to talk to you about the CRP, because I would think that I would see that going down. So do you have a reason for that one?
So I just started with a new rheumatologist, and the old one had me on 200 milligrams of the hydroxychloroquine. I've been feeling better, so I dropped it down to 100. I don't know if you've watched anything by Dr. Feldman. He kind of specializes, well, actually I don't think he's a doctor, he's a scientist, specializes in blood work and stuff. And he said the CRP, he's like, it changes like the triglycerides moment to moment. And I go back to the rheumatologist in 2 or 3 weeks. I just had all their blood work done yesterday, so it'll see a better kind of inclination of what's going on. Because that last rheumatologist was the one that said I had the scleroderma, RA, and fibro. And this one, she redid all of the blood work. Because the other one too, before I don't know if I ever told you this. Before, the first time I ever saw her, the first rheumatologist, she looked at me and she's like, it's just because you're fat. Like, verbatim, like, this is what she said to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, listen, I've had problems since I was 18 and I wasn't nearly as heavy. I was maybe 50 pounds overweight then.
Mm-hmm.
And then she did all the work, and I remember going back the second time, didn't say anything. She's like, okay, here's your diagnosis, and here's the drug, bye. So anyways, so see the new rheumatologist, and then we'll kind of see what's going on from there. I imagine, I still have 100 pounds, plus I've been pushing myself physically, that it could be some of the impact of that. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was thinking. I was waiting for you to like tell me, oh yeah, I did this activity, tweaked whatever, or I fell and I did this thing. Something like
I am physically pushing myself pretty much every day.
Yeah.
I walk till my feet hurt most days, just because I know it's what gets me better. And then Alabama Hill, day before yesterday, I made myself go all the way up it. That's my goal, is to be able to go from the bottom to the top, however long it takes without having to stop. I stopped 4 times, but I'm physically pushing myself constantly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, see, I have nothing to pick on you about now. Like last time, I didn't really then either. We had a nice conversation, but it's really exciting that that you come back, and so I get to see all these numbers and everything. For that.
And I'm hoping in the next 6 months they will be even better. My husband's been doing this, and I haven't done a video, but I want to. He's tall, skinny. He was a TOFI. He lost 28 pounds doing this. His testosterone was 250 when he started this. It's been low his entire life. We are wanting, hopefully next year, to start having kids as I continue to lose weight. So we had it checked. It's 650 now. Wow. And all he's changed is the meat. Because I thought he was going to have to be on exogenous testosterone, but he's now in like the top third, higher tier of men his age, because he's 50.
Okay.
So just literally changing his diet, it almost tripled his testosterone.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful.
Not eating chemicals and eating meat, yes.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about, how Saladino was so uber carnivore, and then he kind of went to more this animal-based. Each their own. But for my neck of the woods, the binge eaters, the diabetics, having honey is not good. It is the start to a downhill slide, especially with binge eaters. And I'm like, if you're healthy and I think fit, and you've not experienced binge eating, I think you do fine with that. People like me know. It's a gateway.
Oh, it is. It's literally a gateway, because so many comments on my channel are like, well, you just need to moderate. It's like, I will wholeheartedly admit, I don't have the ability to moderate. I have the ability to abstain, which does wonders for me. It's like moderation is just, I've tied emotional eating to my food, and it's been so ingrained in me. I'm 33 now. I don't think there's any way I can ever undo that. But that's okay.
But the gentleman I saw today has coronary disease, and so we had this conversation about statin drugs or other things, and it's somewhat of a different beast if you're a person who's had a heart attack, had a stroke. Let's say you're otherwise metabolically healthy, right? So you got labs like yours, but maybe prior to that they had a heart attack or stroke and have bad coronary calcium like that. So I see a lot more of those types of patients than people like you that just identify where their path, or trying to change their path so they don't have that. So primary versus secondary prevention.
The coronary artery scan, is it helpful? I've seen people be like, it doesn't really mean anything, because what is it, the soft, it does one of the plaques but none of the other. Is it something useful to even do?
I think that it's helpful for people that are anxious, if they really want to know if they have coronary disease or not. Yeah, it shows the hard plaques but not the soft plaques.
That's what it is, okay.
So you can miss those. So it's not really good to do in younger people, because they probably just have these soft plaques, if anything at all. But if they're older, like in their 50s, like, oh, my dad had a heart attack at 50, or my office mate just died from a heart attack next to me, do I have coronary disease? And they come in free. Then I think it's more helpful from that to show the pictures and say, and if you could say you have no evidence of coronary calcium and you're 70, that's
you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, you're doing really well, So I think it's more for that for me than trying to direct therapies. You can use it, so that's also a good utilization if you are statin believer, I guess, would be you could have normal cholesterol. You could get a calcium score and maybe abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is, oh yeah, I should tell you about this, is like some vegetarians that I've seen, so they come in here and they're like, oh, I just want to make sure I'm healthy. Hardcore vegan for 40 years and such, and I was like, well, let's get a calcium score. I think this is a perfect example of that. Their cholesterols look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them just have these horrible like calcium scores. They're almost like offended when they come back. And it's like, yeah, like how can this be? I've done this my whole life. How should I have this bad calcium?
And this area is very heavily vegan too,
Yeah. So it's very helpful from an educational standpoint. If you're trying to convince someone to change their lifestyle, they see these pictures and they see all this bad calcium all over. Sometimes that's a wake-up call. Oh, I should stop smoking. Yeah. Right? Something like that.
Oh yeah, I imagine for the smokers and
but
things
the
like
vegan
that.
ones is interesting because they oftentimes they come in feeling like, oh, I'm gonna be amazingly healthy and stuff, and you can pull these things out.
I think it's because a lot of vegan, there's some carnivore people that do this too, but they make it like part of who they are versus this is just what I do.
Yeah.
And that way then you challenge it, and it's like shakes their world of they've spent 40 years doing it. That's crazy.
And maybe it's the seed oils. It's like, well, what oils are you cooking with? Or where are you getting your vegetables from? But, are they organic or not? Or you gotta look at a lot of other things.
The crazy thing about the seed oils, even to this day, if I have anything cooked, like if we go out to eat and they, whatever, steak, because sometimes they'll literally just put veggie oil to like sear it, I'll still get indigestion the second I have seed oils to this day. Oh my God, it's like, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings and they have naked wings, they have nothing on it, but their sauces, even the dry rubs, have seed oil. I ate it one time and I'm like, God, why do I have such terrible indigestion? And I looked it up, they put seed oil in their dry rubs.
Huh.
So I was like, but they cook their chicken in tallow. It's the weirdest thing. And it's like instantaneous. I know if I've had seed oils and it's snuck in there somehow. Like, it's because, I used to have really bad GERD and stuff. And to the point where I would like, honestly, aspirate on my own vomit and wake up and my throat would be closed up thinking I was gonna die because I can't breathe.
Yeah.
It's never gotten that bad, but the seed oils, I'm telling you, I never was one that was like, oh, seed oils, but now I'm just like, I can't stand them. Not in the least. So, yeah.
Your own barometer on that one.
Oh my gosh, and it's instant. And when I have, the thing is too, when I have carbs and stuff, my feet ache. It's like all the like rheumatic stuff flares up instantly the next day. If I have carbs and like, we walked, like I walked 5.5 miles yesterday. If I had carbs today and then walk tomorrow half a mile, I have to turn around. My feet hurt too bad. I can't keep going. Even as far as that I've come, it's just like it's an instantaneous response for me.
Well, that's a good motivator, right? To keep you on task.
Keeps me off most of the time, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, so do you want to do some labs or, down the road?
Yeah.
I've been doing the ApoB, you have the ApoB on here, ApoB-A ratio, because that's where you can sneak in to get the ApoA level too.
And I thought that was that one that went down. One of them, was both of them? Something went up that was low, and all the high, like
ApoBs went down, which is what you want.
Yeah.
Right? That went down. That's why I was wondering, I didn't, the ApoA, I don't know if that was probably not in here. If it was done, that's why I was like, well, I think this time around, order the ApoB-A ratio, because then you have the LP(a) is the other one, but
maybe that's the A one I was looking at, was
yeah.
So for curiosity's sake, for like the particle sizes and stuff, a lot of them have come down. I'm like 1,000, whatever the units, I didn't pay attention to units, off. How much being elevated does that increase my risk for a cardiac event, considering the not having the diabetes and despite having still a higher CRP, which means still inflammation, but everything else? Like, because they are still technically elevated.
Yeah, I don't think it really makes that much of an impact at that point. I think that the insulin resistance and stuff that way outweighs, that sort of stuff. Peter Attia had a nice podcast about particles and lipids. He was talking about HDLs, like you can have these HDLs that are smart ones,
Yeah.
or the dumb ones that don't work. He's like, the best test would be a HDL function. You could like measure HDL function test, because you could have a HDL of 100, but maybe all of them just don't work right.
Does that test exist?
No, there is a test like on some weird obscure lab, but no, not like in Quest or whatever. There's nothing that you can really.
Okay, just some random one-off something or other.
Yeah, that's what. But so he would say like that's misleading. Like you can have this, because I'll see people have so especially women sometimes will have HDLs over 100.
I've seen 150. I'm like, good Lord, I'm trying to get over 50. How do you get an HDL that high? But it doesn't always mean it's good.
Maybe it's the wrong size of HDLs that are not, or the function of them is off, or whatever. But that's why the ApoB is a little bit, even though it's just kind of like a broad view of the particles, it kind of makes more sense than the particle sizes. I mean, the LP(a), usually you just check that once, because that's either going to be high, abnormal, or it's going to be good, so you're not genetically predisposed for that.
Is it the pattern type? You're like A or whatever the other pattern is?
Oh, this is a different one than the A and B one that you're talking about. And so that's so what I have is just like the lipid stuff, that thing. So, well, good to see you.
It was good to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing so well.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. Right.
And good. Well, you take care.
Okay, just got back out. That was a wonderful appointment. I was actually really excited about it yesterday anyways, because I was looking at all the breakdown of the graphs, and everything is going the direction it needs to go. Despite having a carnivore diet, my cardiac health is getting much better. And the big thing, I'm going to convince him to do an interview or like a question answer kind of thing. Obviously not medical advice, but just kind of a question and answer thing for you guys around cardiac stuff. I think that would be amazing, doing it in person too with the two of us, because well, we live in the same city. Seeing that, but then also hearing the reiteration about it. Y'all, like, if you are afraid your heart health is going to get worse doing carnivore. Now, obviously not a doctor, and I don't know your personal circumstances, and people in really bad cardiac health, there's a lot of caveats that go here. But for me, for mine, it has improved, and it will improve. I'm 33. I can't imagine what my life would have looked like had I continued down the path I had been going. I mean, most likely, to be honest, I probably wouldn't be alive sitting here today. The depression would have taken me, and or my body just was getting to the point of failure. Through my 20s, I was overweight, like 80 to 100 pounds varying. But then my 30s, everything just like, all the bad stuff started happening. So that was an amazing appointment. Probably next week, and I will go over once I get the rest of my blood work back, right? Because I got a new rheumatologist, and she did a ton more blood work, and I will share that for my rheumatic / autoimmune people, and then just my basic like CBC, the complete blood count, metabolic panel, these kinds of things. So yeah, excited.